I would say if you're going to present me with a Chardonnay, come somewhere in the middle. Like, I want something that will make the entire crowd happy, right? Like, everyone happy. It's not going to freak anybody out. But, mainstay here, the juice has to be good, right? I mean, that's stating the obvious, but is it? Like, I have been presented with a lot of juice that is not good. And so that's really important. And then also, you have to know who you're presenting to. Don't just come in blindly and present something to me without knowing the brand. And we'll get into that later. But I'll talk about that. I mean, varietal correctness, like Chardonnay, for example. I mean, there's very polarizing styles of Chardonnay, right? Some people really love that opulent, oaky, even a hint of residual sugar on the palate Chardonnay. Some people love Chablis, right? Not oaked, just zippy, high acid and clean. I would say if you're going to present me with a Chardonnay, come somewhere in the middle. Like, I want something that will make the entire crowd happy, right? Like, everyone happy. It's not going to freak anybody out. And it's similar to that, like, say, Cabernet Sauvignon. Don't come to me with something that's just like juicy and insipid. I want something that represents Cabernet Sauvignon that's got a little bit of structure, but also has the fruit to cater to the Napa Cabernet loving crowd, right? It has to have balance. So that's number one. I think varietally speaking, that's important. Another thing that I think is important is don't push off varietals on me. Say you have a bunch of excess Riesling, and you were like, oh, here, use this private label Riesling. And we'd be like, no. Riesling's great, by all means, but maybe create like a white blend for me to taste that would be more crowd-pleasing. I'd say white blends and red blends go over much better for the general public than, say, a monovarietal Riesling. So give me a Chenin Blanc Riesling blend, something like that, an aromatic white blend. I think that would be more likely to be sellable. Oxidation, I think, is another really important key point here. You should come having tested how long the longevity or shelf stability of your product is. If I'm going to be pouring this wine by the glass and I open it and the next day it's just like totally oxidized, that's not cool. Like, this product has to represent, what we do. It's an extension of my restaurant group or my stadium or whatever, more so applicable in this case for the restaurant group. So it needs to be stable, and different varietals oxidize at a faster rate, so that's something to think about too. I have a friend in Chicago who would, considering it, she ran a restaurant group, and she would think about a placement for a glass pour, and it was like a top of the fridge test. So she would open a bottle if it was red, dump out half of it, put a cork in it, put it on the top of a refrigerator for a week, and then taste it. Now, obviously, it's going to be oxidized at that point, but the level of oxidation was what she was looking for. And if it was okay, she would consider it for a placement. Same for Chardonnay, or a white wine, excuse me. Put it in the fridge, having poured out half of it, taste it in a week. I mean, I feel like white wine oxidizes at a lower rate, but still something to consider, because that's all very important. Are you going to offer a Coravin or a system for preservation? Personally, I'm not a huge Coravin fan. I'd rather the product speaks for itself and holds up well. But in some cases, that could be applicable. And then the other thing about varietal is you could consider sourcing. Obviously, there's Napa, there's specific AVAs, and then there's the generic California appellation. Obviously, the fruit from Napa or any sub-AVA is going to be a lot more expensive to source. So you could source fruit from Paso Robles, for example, label this wine California fruit, and generally speaking, our clients are going to be really excited to recognize it's from California. They don't need to know that it's from Napa specifically. And so that only helps you as well as us in terms of pricing on bottom line.